Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a princess, a warrior, or some plucky survivor in a folk tale. You're a woman from a nameless village, born without glory, living without notice, until one morning, Genghis Khan's empire comes to collect what it believes it's owed. You're not killed. That would be simple. You're captured, bound, shoved into the long, endless march of the Mongol war machine. And from this point on, your life is no longer yours. You will be touched, traded, renamed, and repurposed. Not for love, not even for cruelty, but because it's what conquest requires. Before the campfire dies and someone decides you're useful again, do me a quiet favour. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. I find it fascinating to see who's tuning in from around the world. And if you'd like early access to more grim bedtime stories, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable. Let's begin. You wake up before the sun, not because you're eager, but because that's how mornings work here. When the ground is still cold, when the sky is still undecided, when the animals are restless, but not loud. Your mat is stiff and your shoulder hurts from sleeping on it wrong. You roll slowly, sit up, and press your feet against the packed dirt floor. Your bones creak a little louder than they used to, but there's bread to make, there's water to fetch, there's life to repeat again and again, until you run out of days. The village is already moving. Someone's sweeping dust away from a doorway that will be dusty again by noon. A child is crying because that's what children do. You rub your hands together, still stiff from yesterday's washing, and step outside. The morning air bites a little, but it's clean. There's a sharpness to it that makes your lungs feel alive. You glance up. The sky is streaked with colour, pale orange, with the faintest smear of indigo. Good weather, or at least not bad. Your breath fogs faintly as you move toward the well. You nod at your neighbour. She doesn't smile, but she nods back. It's enough. You draw water together in silence, passing the bucket between you without a word. It's not rudeness, it's routine. Too early for talk, and there's too much to do anyway. Back at your door, you rinse your face. The cold stings. You blink against it. Awake now, in that way you always are. Alert but tired, moving but dreaming. You press your palm against the wall of your house. It's real. It's still standing. You try to believe that means something. Inside, your younger cousin is kneading dough. Her fingers are flour dusted, her eyes still heavy from sleep. She talks about something. A friend, a boy, a chicken with a limp, but you're not really listening. You just let her voice fill the space while you prepare the pot for morning tea. You drop the leaves in with care. There aren't many left, but today is a normal day. And normal days don't require saving anything. Outside, someone laughs. A real laugh, light and full and messy. You glance out the doorway and see two boys chasing each other near the goat pen, tripping over their own feet and shouting something about heroism. They're pretending to be soldiers, of course. Heroes in stories. Not the kind that die early. You watch them for a while, and for a moment, you let yourself pretend the world is small again. That all battles are pretend. That all wars are far away. There's talk later about something seen near the river. A rider, maybe. Or smoke, maybe. Or nothing, probably. You hear it from the old man, who sharpens tools, who heard it from his son, who heard it from someone in the next town over. He says the Khan's men were seen near Otrar, or maybe Samarkand, or maybe that was last season. He shrugs as he speaks, chewing a sliver of dried meat between his teeth. His tone is light, dismissive. He's lived through scares before. Raiders come and go. Sometimes they don't come at all. Still, the mothers quiet a little when they hear it. The laughter doesn't stop, but it feels thinner after that. People keep working, but there's more glancing over shoulders, more checking the sky for signs it doesn't usually give. Someone suggests the gates be checked again. Another says it's too soon to panic. You say nothing. You keep scrubbing. You keep baking. You keep pretending that being cautious will make a difference if the world decides it wants you. By midday, things are almost back to normal. The heat rises in waves off the rooftops. Chickens scatter through the dust. A neighbour brings you a strip of cloth she embroidered. A gift, she says, for your help with her daughter's wedding dress. You thank her, and it almost feels like joy. It's rare to receive something unnecessary, something beautiful. You fold it carefully, place it near your things. You don't know it yet, but it will burn within 24 hours. In the evening, you sweep the floor again. It doesn't need it, but you sweep anyway. You sort lentils for a stew that won't be finished. You comb your cousin's hair while she hums something off key. You light a small flame and set it in the corner, the way your grandmother taught you, to keep spirits away or draw them closer, or maybe both. You aren't sure anymore. But it's what you do. It's what she did. And she lived through more winters than anyone else you knew. So you do it too. The goats are unusually restless tonight. You notice it just as the last of the light dies beyond the trees. One of them bleats sharply, again and again, louder than normal. You step outside and shush them softly, but they don't calm, not fully, not even when you bring the feed early, not even when you sing. Then you hear it, distant, low and strange. Not thunder, not horses, something between the two, something deliberate. You stop moving. The goats freeze too. For one long moment, the world seems to pause with you. You've never heard a sound like that before, but you will, again and again, until you can't forget it, but not yet, because tonight is the last normal night. And in the morning the fire comes. It starts before dawn. Not with drums, not with horns, but with the sharp hiss of something slicing through the sky. The sound is unfamiliar, but the impact is not. Something slams into the wall near the well. A shudder, a splinter, a hole where solid earth used to be. And then it happens again, and again. You bolt upright, too quickly, heart racing. You don't even reach for your shoes. You just run to the door, pull it open, and see the world ending in pieces. The eastern gate is gone, not broken, gone. A black smear of smoke where wood and iron used to stand. People are already running, screaming, tripping over each other in a blur of panic. You see the baker's son dragging his sister by the arm, shouting something you can't hear over the roar of fire and hooves. The sky is still purple with night, but firelight paints the buildings gold, then orange, then black. Ash falls like snow, and it's still only minutes into the invasion. The Mongols don't yell when they enter. They don't charge like fools or bellow like heroes. They move with method, striking like they've already won. Because they have. Your village isn't a battlefield, it's a chore. They sweep through it in silence, riding fast and low, their arrows loosed before you even see the strings pull. Your neighbours fall, one by one, sometimes in pairs. No one is fighting back. There's no time. You grab your cousin's wrist and pull her toward the back door. She's barefoot. She stumbles. You drag her anyway. The smoke's already inside, thin and stinging, curling in around the rafters and the corners like it knows where you'll hide. Your home creaks, then cracks. The thatch is catching. You throw open the rear entrance and shove her forward. She hesitates, tries to speak. You slap her shoulder and scream at her to move. There's no time for words, only direction. Outside, the alley is already filling with people, not soldiers, not warriors, just villagers, men with no weapons, women clutching infants, elders being half carried. You all run in the same direction, away. But away leads nowhere. You knew that before, in some quiet place in your brain. You just didn't admit it. You hear something tear through the air behind you. A sickening wet sound follows it. You don't look back. Someone falls to the dirt behind you. Your cousin screams. You keep pulling her. The smoke is thicker now, choking the air and making your eyes leak. The ground trembles as more hooves arrive. Not a stampede, but a rhythm. Controlled, precise. They're not chasing, they're herding. You make it as far as the edge of the village, near the pastures. The fence has already collapsed under someone else's weight. You climb it without thinking. Your skirt tears. You land hard, your knees scraping against the gravel. You turn to help her down, but she's not there. For a moment the world pauses. Then you see her again, caught between two running figures, trying to scream your name, but her voice is lost in the roar. You start back toward her, but someone grabs you from the side. A hand, rough, unfamiliar, yanks you off your feet and slams you to the ground. The air leaves your body in a single, sharp gasp. You claw the dirt, try to twist away, but the weight pins you. Then you're on your back, staring up into a face you don't recognize. He's not yelling. He's not angry. He just looks down at you like you're a puzzle he's already solved. Then he shoves a cloth in your mouth, tight and fast, and binds your wrists with a cord that burns as it digs in. You're dragged, not far, just to the side, dumped with others, women, 2 boys maybe 12 or 13, an elder with blood on her chin and nothing left in her eyes. You lie still for a moment, gasping through your nose, trying not to vomit through the cloth. You can't see your cousin. You can't see your house anymore either. Just flame. The whole street is gone, devoured by fire. The kind that doesn't flicker, the kind that eats. In the distance, the screaming changes pitch. It's no longer chaotic, it's rhythmic now. Pockets of resistance snuffed out one by one. Your people didn't stand a chance. The Mongols use fear like a blade. You'd heard stories, walls crumbling before a single shot is fired, cities opening their gates just to avoid the slaughter. You didn't believe it. You thought they were exaggerations. You thought the Khan was still far away. You were wrong. You're kicked in the side when you try to sit up. A warning, nothing personal, just a rule. You stop moving. The dirt under your cheek is warm from the nearby fires. Your lungs wheeze in short bursts. You realise you've wet yourself at some point. You're too ashamed to cry about it. Or maybe too tired. Someone nearby is sobbing quietly into their sleeve. You close your eyes, not to rest, just to not see. And then the shouting changes. It moves past you, further north, toward the river. They're rounding up the last of them now. Whoever ran that way will be caught, or burned, or worse. You lie there, surrounded by flame and bodies, and you realise the truth. The walls didn't fall. They didn't need to. You were never protected. You were just waiting your turn. The fighting ends before noon. Not because anyone wins, but because there's no one left to resist. By the time the smoke has settled and the last screams have quieted into whimpers, the village is nothing but a smouldering carcass. The air tastes like soot and metal. You're not sure if the shaking in your hands is from fear or the cold that's moved in now that the fires are dying down. You're not allowed to stand, not yet. So you stay where they dumped you, knees pressed against your chest, wrists still tied, lips cracked around the corners where the cloth gag pulled too tight. The heat has faded. What's left is the silence. When they finally begin moving people, it's not chaotic, it's deliberate. One rider barks an order in a language you don't speak, and 2 others start pulling bodies apart. Not the dead, not yet, but the living who've been heaped together like kindling. You're yanked to your feet by the arm, shoved into a line that already stretches along the edge of the broken fence. The people around you don't look at each other. Most of them stare at the ground, eyes unfocused. One woman is whispering something again and again, but it isn't a prayer. It sounds more like an apology. They don't ask your name. They don't care who you are. One soldier walks the line, squinting at each person like they're livestock at a market. When he gets to you, he stops for half a breath, mutters something to the man behind him, and moves on. You don't know what it means. You don't ask. You've already learned questions slow things down, and slowing things down earns you pain. Nearby, the corpses are being gathered, not with reverence, with hooks. Limbs are dragged into piles, boots are pulled off, pockets turned out. One man is still half alive when they toss him with the rest. He groans once sharply, then goes quiet. No one reacts. You almost don't. It's too much to absorb too fast. Your brain is doing something strange now, blunting the edges of reality so you don't scream every time someone dies within arm's reach. Once the piles are big enough, they're lit. You watch from the side as the first stack is set alight, bodies curling inward as the heat rises. The smell makes you gag, but you've already emptied your stomach sometime during the raid. All you do now is retch until your ribs ache. A man beside you is weeping into the crook of his arm. A soldier notices and smacks him across the mouth with a length of wood. The weeping stops. Eventually, the sorting begins. The men who can still walk are separated first, were pulled from the line, bound again, and taken away. You don't see them again. The elders are next. Anyone too frail to stand, too wounded to carry things, or too old to fetch a price is simply ignored. Not killed, not immediately, just left in the dirt like broken tools. You try not to look at the woman you recognise, the one who used to bring you figs from her garden, now curled against the ashes of someone else's doorway, unmoving. Women and children are grouped last. It's not random. The ones who look strong are put together. The young ones, pre-teen girls, boys not yet old enough for labour, are clustered nearby. You're moved again, this time more roughly, and shoved into the group that no longer contains your cousin. You haven't seen her since the gate. You tell yourself she made it out, that she ran faster, found hiding, but you don't believe it. Once you're in your new place, the rest of your things are taken. What little you had left, a hair tie, a strip of cloth, your shoes, stripped from your body and tossed into a heap beside someone else's broken jewellery. No one writes anything down. There are no ledgers, no records. The soldiers don't need to track you. They'll remember what matters. How many mouths, how many hands, how many wombs. You're not killed. That realisation hits you slow, like cold water leaking through your clothes. You are not among the dead. You are not a widow, not a burned body in a pile, but don't mistake it for mercy. This isn't about kindness. This is about economy. You are alive because someone believes they can use you, because someone looked at your face and didn't see resistance. They saw value. You are not a person, not anymore. You are one more line in the spoils of war. You are grain. You are wool. You are transportable, usable, eventually expendable. You are no longer what you were yesterday. You don't know what you are now. You only know you don't belong to yourself. As the sun begins to drop behind the ruined rooftops, you and the others are tethered together. A rope looped through the cords around your wrists. You try to flex your fingers, but they've gone numb. You glance once more at the village. What's left of it? The well still stands, half crumbled. The pen is empty. The cloth your neighbour gave you is nowhere to be seen. You don't cry, not because you're brave, because it feels pointless, because grief is for people who believe in the future. And right now, you don't. They march you out at dawn, just as the last stars fade and the sky begins to stain with light. The fires have burned low overnight, leaving only smouldering heaps and curling smoke where your village used to be. The air still smells like meat and ruin. You're roused with a boot to the ribs and hauled to your feet before your legs remember how to work. There's no food, no water, no explanation, just motion. The ropes are tightened, the orders are shouted, and then you walk away from everything, into the pale and rising day. You walk in a long line, tethered wrist to wrist with the others, heads down, legs shaking. The rope chafes your skin raw, especially where it rubs against your cuts. Some try to keep their footing. Some stumble and don't rise again. When that happens, the group pauses just long enough to untangle the fallen body from the cord. A few are hauled off the path and tossed to the side like sacks of grain. Others are simply cut loose and left where they land. One woman begs for help getting her sister up. She doesn't get a second chance to ask. The road is barely a road, more like a trail worn down by years of hooves and wheels and marching feet. You've never been this far from home before. Each hill you cross, each patch of unfamiliar trees, takes you farther from everything you've ever known. You try not to think about it too much. The further you go, the less real it feels. Like you're watching someone else's life unravel from a distance. The sun is unforgiving. It bakes the backs of your arms and neck as you walk, sweat drying to salt before it even has a chance to cool you. There's water, but only when they decide to give it. Sometimes you go hours with nothing. When the skin around your lips starts to crack and peel, you stop noticing. Hunger follows closely behind, a constant gnawing, dull and low, never quite enough to collapse you, but always there to remind you of how little you matter. By the second day, your feet are bleeding. Not in a dramatic way, just small steady ruptures along your heels and toes, blisters bursting and reforming with every step. The dust clings to the wounds, grinding into them with every motion. You can feel the infection starting, but there's no time to stop. No way to ask. The Mongols do not look kindly on delays. One girl, no more than 10, trips and sprains her ankle. Her mother tries to carry her for a while. Then she falls too. Neither of them get back up. At night, you collapse where they tell you. No tents, no fires. Just the hard earth beneath your spine and a thin wool blanket tossed into the dirt. You curl into yourself, trying to keep warm as the temperature plummets. The steppe doesn't care what season it is. Nights are sharp and bitter, like teeth against your skin. You try to share body heat with the woman beside you. She doesn't respond. She's still breathing, but barely. Her fingers are stiff when you try to hold them. No one speaks, not because you've been told not to, though that's certainly the rule, but because speech has lost its use. What could be said? The questions are too big. The answers too cruel. So instead, you march in silence, day after day, your mind beginning to blur around the edges. Time folds in on itself. One horizon looks like the next. The sky never seems to change. You stop looking at the stars. They aren't for you anymore. Sometimes you hear laughter. Mongol soldiers talking to each other, joking in a language you don't understand. It's not cruel laughter, not pointed or mocking. It's casual, ordinary, which makes it worse. Your suffering isn't personal to them. You're not even interesting. You're just part of the cargo. You've seen them joke while tying down horses, while sharpening blades, while tossing looted goods into carts. You're in the same category now. Just one more item to secure. You try to keep your head down and your feet moving. That's all. That's the extent of your life now. One foot, then another. When your thoughts start drifting toward your cousin again, or your house, or the cloth gift you folded so carefully, you shake your head to stop it. Thinking hurts more than walking. You can't afford both. On the fourth night, someone dies in their sleep. An older woman who had stopped eating the day before. She'd curled up in the grass and just never got up again. They don't announce it. They don't bury her. In the morning, one of the riders pulls a knife, cuts the rope where she's tied in, and moves the line forward. Her body remains in the grass. By the time you glance back, it's already shrinking into the landscape. You lose track of how many have fallen behind. By the end of the first week, the line is half, as long as it was. You don't know their names. You barely remember your own. The ones who remain are the quietest, the most obedient, the ones who don't make eye contact and don't ask questions. Those are the ones who survive longest. Not because they're strong, but because they don't make anyone angry enough to end them. You aren't a person anymore. You're not even a captive. You're an object in motion, a body to be delivered, a piece of inventory that happens to breathe. The only part of you they care about is the part that can still walk. And for now, you still can. They stop again just before dusk somewhere on another patch of cracked earth that looks like every other place you've passed. It's been days now, the march broken only by sleep, silence, and the constant ache in your legs. This camp is no different than the last, No shelter, no softness, just a tightly wound circle of horses, carts, and people who stopped being people somewhere back on the trail. The Mongols move with the same effortless precision, unpacking what they need and lighting fires as if they've always known they'd pause here. You're shoved to the edge of the encampment along with the others, still bound, still watched. There's no privacy here, no modesty. Mongol soldiers walk past you, laughing and spitting, some with their armour loosened, some already gnawing on meat torn straight from the bone. They don't look at you like a person. They glance the way one does at a goat or a tool, noting condition, size, potential use. A few of them make gestures toward your group, short bursts of speech in a language you don't understand. Some point, others laugh. You learn quickly not to draw attention. A girl a few rows down shifts to relieve pressure on her knees, and a soldier notices. He says something sharp, strides over, and strikes her across the face with an open hand. She falls sideways, doesn't get back up. No one moves to help her. The rest of you pretend not to notice. You keep your gaze low and your shoulders slouched. You're learning the rules, even if no one teaches them out loud. Food is distributed, but not to you. The soldiers eat first, always. If anything is left, it comes your way, tossed in clumps or scraps. You're not given utensils, not allowed to wash your hands. You eat like a dog, crouched in the dirt, chewing around the taste of ash and old blood. A woman beside you refuses her share. She doesn't say why. Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's fear. Either way, it vanishes when someone else grabs it from her lap. Hunger doesn't wait for dignity. At some point, one of the men approaches your group with two others trailing behind. Their clothing is more elaborate than the rest. Not soft, but cleaner, marked with patterns that mean something to someone. They speak over you, pointing at different women, discussing things like weight, teeth, and obedience. It's not subtle. One of them lifts your chin with a gloved hand, turns your face side to side, then mutters something with a smirk. The others laugh. You don't need a translator. You already understand. You've just been bartered for. Nothing dramatic happens after that. There's no ceremony, no exchange of coins, no signatures. Just a nod and a wave, and the men wander off again, still chuckling. You're left sitting in the dirt, your skin crawling with the knowledge that your ownership has shifted hands, or soon will. You don't know where you'll go next. You just know you're being moved, like a piece on a board, one that never chose where to stand in the first place. Later, as night falls and the fires burn lower, some of the Mongol women pass through the camp. They aren't soft either. They walk with the same confidence, the same authority, but their eyes linger differently. Some glance with what looks like pity, others with calculation. One kneels beside a girl with light hair, touches her braid, then walks off without a word. Another prods a woman's shoulder and asks a question. The woman doesn't answer. A soldier steps forward and answers for her. Whatever was said ends in a laugh. You begin to realise that not all fates here are the same. Some women are taken as personal servants, others as labourers. Some, the young, the silent, the physically unmarked, are saved for roles you'd rather not name. The decisions aren't always made by men. Mongol women may not wield the whip in public, but they help decide who sleeps where, who scrubs which tools, who gets stripped of clothes in front of strangers. You are not asked what you're good at. You are not asked what you want. You are weighed by the muscles in your arms, the clarity of your skin, the state of your teeth. If you'd been injured during the march, you'd likely already be discarded or beaten into silence. But you didn't fall. You kept walking, and now someone has noticed. By the firelight, you see another woman being led away. She doesn't resist, just walks, barefoot and bowed, behind a man with a short whip hanging from his belt. A few of the others watch her go. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. You try to keep your face blank, but your stomach twists. You know it will be your turn soon. You don't hear the decision when it's made. One moment you're sitting in the dirt, pretending not to feel the firelight on your face. The next, a soldier is yanking you to your feet, and leading you away by the rope still looped around your wrists. You don't struggle. Not because you agree, that word doesn't belong to you anymore, but because it wouldn't matter. You move when pulled, that's what you do now. They don't speak to you as they strip you. They don't explain. Your old clothes, the ones you marched in, the ones stained with sweat, blood and days of travel, are cut away with a knife and tossed aside like trash. A woman you don't recognize grabs a pail of water and dumps it over your head without warning. It's ice cold, and the shock of it steals your breath. You try to wipe your face, but your hands are still bound. Another woman grabs your arm and begins scrubbing with something that smells of ash and lye. She isn't gentle. She doesn't look at you either, just works, as if you were a pot or a horse that needs cleaning before display. When they're finished, you're wrapped in something coarser and cleaner, a tunic that doesn't fit and doesn't belong to you. The cloth scratches against your skin and smells like someone else's sweat. There's no dignity in it. You're not being honoured, you're being rebranded, the way traders clean livestock before market. Not out of kindness, out of protocol. You're brought to a different part of the camp now, not the outer ring, where the expendable ones sleep. This area is more organised, more protected. It's still rough. Tents made of hide, carts loaded with supplies, animals tied and twitching. But there's a rhythm to it. You see guards stationed in regular intervals, fires spaced evenly, people moving with purpose. This is where the ones in charge sleep. Not kings, not generals. The Mongols don't seem to care much about appearances, but people with authority, with decision-making power, with ownership. You're set down near a row of other women. None of them look at you. That's another rule. Looking means thinking. Thinking means remembering. And remembering here only leads to pain. You keep your head bowed. You listen. Camp life, as you come to understand it, is a machine. Brutal, fast, and highly efficient. There is no waste. Every person, every object, every animal has a function, and when that function ends, so do they. The Mongols are not messy in their cruelty. They are systematic, precise. If something needs to die, it dies. If something can be used, it is. You are among the latter, for now. Your tasks vary. Some days you're sent to collect kindling or tend to fires. Other days you're ordered to clean tools you don't recognise, items you're not allowed to touch with your bare hands. You carry buckets. You wash garments that are not yours. You kneel for hours scraping mud from the bottoms of boots that never once pause to acknowledge you. Once you're made to sit still for what feels like an entire afternoon, back straight, hands folded, while a man inspects you from a distance and takes notes on a strip of parchment. He never speaks. When he leaves, you're not told why. You're fed now, slightly more and slightly better. Still nothing warm, still nothing clean, but it's enough to keep you moving. They don't want you well, just functional. You sleep under a tarp with two others, both of whom flinch in their dreams and wake without words. The ground is hard. The night's colder here. The steppe wind cuts through layers like they're nothing. You shiver, even when you're still. The cold becomes part of you. You begin to recognize the patterns of hierarchy. Who steps aside for whom? Who gives orders and who carries them out? There's a logic to it. Not fair, not kind, but structured. Mongol life is mobile, efficient, stripped of ornament, but rich with meaning you're not allowed to understand. They sing sometimes at night, low and slow around their own fires. The songs are not mournful, they're proud. They speak of conquest and stars, and the lives of men who are born to ride and to kill. You listen, but the words never become clear. You are not part of this world. That knowledge sinks in slowly, like a splinter, working deeper into the skin. You are not included, not adopted, not absorbed. You are rotated around the edge, always nearby, always visible, never touched unless needed. The cruelty here is not in the lash, it's in the indifference. You are tolerated the way one tolerates a dull blade, not worth discarding yet, but not worth sharpening either. There is no day you're not reminded that you can be replaced, not in words but in silence, in the way no one calls you by name, in the way no one waits for you when you fall behind, in the way a girl who burned her hand while stirring a pot is simply gone the next morning, her role reassigned before the sun is up. No questions, no ceremony, just subtraction. You are owned, not in the way of stories, no chains, no collar, no dramatic pronouncements, just a fact. You belong to someone now. They may trade you, assign you, discard you. It doesn't matter. You are not asked, you are not here to matter. You are here to serve. Until you don't. You don't know where you're going. You're not told. No one sketches a map in the dirt or offers comfort with destination names. You are loaded onto a cart with two others, positioned between sacks of grain and rolls of leather, and the wheels begin to turn long before the sun rises. The cold bites through the rough cloth at your shoulders. You don't ask questions. The answers would only confirm what you already feel, that your path is not your own. The empire stretches in every direction. That's what you begin to understand, slowly, over the passing days. It doesn't matter whether you're heading east or west, north or south. The Mongol reach bends the earth like heat through glass. You cross rivers whose names you don't know, roll through fields where the soil is blackened and dead. In one village, or what's left of it, you see an old man strung up from a wooden post, his face half gone from birds or time. The rest of the settlement is ash. No one in your cart speaks. You just keep moving. Sometimes the land opens into great flat stretches where the horizon swallows the sky, and sometimes you climb narrow paths where the mountain wind cuts through the cart's canvas like knives. You try to mark the terrain in your head, to count days by the scenery, but it blurs too easily. Forest, grass, stone, smoke. It could be a week or a month. You wouldn't know. Time here belongs to the men who hold the reins. The steppes are endless, yellow-brown fields dotted with bones, some animals, some not. At night, the cold turns everything rigid, and the silence makes the world feel hollow. You lie beside other women in a cluster under coarse blankets, not speaking, not moving more than necessary. One of them hums sometimes in her sleep. It's not a song you recognize. You think it might be a lullaby, or a prayer, or both. Along the way, people are swapped, carts shift. You are counted once, maybe twice, by men who never make eye contact. Some women disappear, others join. You stop trying to remember their faces. Even yours feels distant now, something you wore in another life. If you caught your reflection, you're not sure you'd know it. There are outposts every few days, rough campgrounds surrounded by crude fences or half-walled compounds, depending on how far from the front lines you are. These places serve no purpose beyond function. To feed horses, to issue orders, to redistribute what's been taken. That includes you. Sometimes you're made to walk again. Sometimes they keep you packed, like goods awaiting inspection. There's no rhythm, no predictability. That's part of the method. Routine makes people comfortable, and comfort makes people foolish. You overhear words that don't belong to your language. You learn to recognize a few. Directions, insults, commands, but most of it stays opaque. Just noise. This is how they like it. If you can't understand the rules, you can't break them. You watch the soldiers talk among themselves, rapid and sharp, as they gesture toward maps you'll never see. One mentions Khotan, another says Kiev. You don't know where those are, only that both could mean weeks more in this cart. Once you pass a column of soldiers heading the opposite direction. Lean men on leaner horses, their faces burned by sun and wind, armour dusted with dried blood. They don't glance at you as they ride by. Their eyes are too tired. Their focus is always forward. One limps, his leg half wrapped in a splint. Another is missing 2 fingers. They look like men who've seen everything and still sleep with their weapons in reach. Men die in conquest. You've seen that. They're spent in battle, buried in haste. sometimes not buried at all. But women last longer. You are not meant to fight, you are meant to endure, to be moved, reassigned, repurposed, to carry weight in silence, to fill the gaps left by the men who didn't return. That's your role now. That's how you contribute. The Mongols don't see this as cruelty. To them, it's structure. You're not hated, you're not even punished. You are processed, tracked like a shipment. You belong wherever they send you. And if they send you nowhere, then you've already outlived your usefulness. Once the cart stops near a ruined town with walls too broken to defend. You're allowed to stretch your legs for a few minutes. You step down into the dust, muscles weak from stillness, and look around. A boy no older than 8 watches you from the edge of a collapsed doorway. His face is smudged with soot. He doesn't blink. Behind him, smoke rises from a small pile of what looks like cloth, but it's not. It's not cloth. You turn your eyes away. You don't want to know who or what. The cart creaks again. Someone calls your name, not your real one, but the one they gave you a few days ago. You climb back in and resume your place between the sacks. The geography rolls past. The empire never ends. And you're carried forward through it. Not as a person, not even as a prisoner, just as something that still has value. For now. One morning, before the frost has finished lifting from the grass, they pull you from the cart and walk you into a new camp. You know the type by now. Wide perimeter, mounted patrols, fires already lit, and eyes that scan you as you pass. This one is quieter than the others. Not smaller, just more settled. The kind of place where decisions are made, where people like you are spoken of, but not spoken to. You're brought to a tent that smells of leather and damp wool. Inside, a man sits with one leg stretched out and the other bent beneath him. His armour is lacquered, his coat lined with furs you've never touched. He doesn't rise when you enter. He just studies you like you're a horse he might buy or a piece of pottery he's not sure he needs. He asks a question. Not to you, but to the soldier behind you. The soldier answers. The man nods. Another gesture, another word, and you are his, just like that. No contract, no price you're told, no permission. You are not traded the way people trade ideas or affection. You are moved the way one passes a bowl across a table, useful, empty, and expected to stay that way until refilled. Whatever value you had before is gone. Now you are whatever he wants you to be. The next hours pass in a blur. You're led to a different part of the camp and washed again, this time more gently, though not kindly. You're dressed in clothing that fits a little better, though it still isn't yours. Someone combs your hair with rough fingers and oils it with something that smells of pine and fat. No one tells you what's happening, but you know. You've seen it before, how some women vanish from the carts and return as something else entirely, quieter, straighter-spined, deliberately forgettable. You are becoming that now. You're told to kneel outside a yurt near the edge of the camp, hands folded, head low. You stay that way for what feels like an hour, maybe more. The air is dry and the dust clings to your throat. You hear voices from inside and low, serious tones, the occasional laugh, men talking about things that matter to them. Maps, horses, war, not you, never you. Eventually, a boy opens the flap and waves you in. The interior is dim but warm. Furs line the walls, a brazier burns low near the centre, and there are cushions scattered on the ground. The man from earlier is seated at the back, reclined with one arm draped over a cushion and the other holding a bowl. He gestures without looking at you. You sit on the floor across from him and keep your eyes low. That becomes your job. To be near, to be silent, to serve as needed. In the days that follow, you clean things that don't seem dirty. You arrange food you're not allowed to eat. You fetch water, fold blankets, warm boots near the fire, and stand by the door until dismissed. It's not back-breaking labour, not like digging latrines or hauling stones, but it leaves a different kind of mark. The kind that teaches you how to make your presence disappear, even when your body, is in the room. Sometimes the man speaks to you, not often, never gently, just short instructions, corrections, commands. You are a tool, and tools don't need conversation. You learn how to move just fast enough not to annoy, but not so fast that it draws attention. How to look busy without seeming eager. How to anticipate need without assuming anything. You become something between furniture and ornament, always present, never acknowledged. You hear other women whisper when they think no one's listening. Some were given to merchants, others to scribes or regional governors. One, they say, was sent east as a gift to a general's household. Another to a border outpost so remote that even the birds avoid it. No one says what happens after. They just shake their heads or go quiet when asked. You begin to understand that being given is not the worst part. It's what follows. Where you end up. Who gets to own the days you have left. The man you serve doesn't beat you, doesn't touch you, not yet, but he does watch. Sometimes he'll stare at you over his cup for longer than necessary. You keep your eyes lowered, your spine straight. You never ask what he's thinking. You don't want to know. You've seen how fast the line can be crossed between servant and something else. You try to be forgettable. It's the only kind of safety left. But safety here is a temporary condition. Like warmth or silence, there is no announcement, no warning, no shift in routine to tell you that it's coming. One evening, after the camp quiets and the fires burn low, a servant waves you inside the yurt with a look that says nothing. You follow as you always do. You kneel near the brazier. The man is already reclining on his cushion, drinking slowly, eyes fixed somewhere beyond the flickering flame. He doesn't speak. He just gestures toward you. A single movement of the hand, the same way someone might signal for water or for a dog. You do not resist. That option no longer exists. Not practically, not mentally. Resistance is noise, and noise is punished. So you obey. Not because it's safer, though it might be, but because that's what you've been taught now. In the silences between footsteps, in the glances exchanged across firelight, in the thousand moments where someone else's will overtook your own. It happens without violence, but that doesn't make it gentle. It's fast, functional, unspoken. He doesn't undress you entirely, just enough to use what he wants. The rest stays covered, as if modesty still exists in this arrangement. You stare at the wall, at the pattern stitched into the felt. You focus on anything but the weight, the breath, the repetition. You try not to dissociate too far, not because you want to be present, but because you know you'll be expected to move when it's over. You need to stay ready to rise, to leave, to clean up quietly. He doesn't thank you. He doesn't look at you afterward. Just rolls over and pulls the furs tighter around himself. You dress again, with trembling fingers, and step out into the cold. No one meets your eyes as you return to your place by the smaller fire. But they know. Everyone knows. That's the part no one talks about. It's not hidden. It's just accepted. It's not a singular event. It becomes a rhythm, like chores. Some nights you're summoned, some nights you aren't. You learn not to predict, not to prepare. You keep yourself clean because it's expected, not because it helps. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not cry. You did, once, quietly, after one of the first nights. But another woman pulled you aside the next morning and told you never to do that again. Not because it's weak, but because if they see it on your face, they'll know it still costs you something. And once they know that, they'll take it more often. You hear murmurs sometimes, among the soldiers, the servants, the traders who pass through camp, about how the Khan encourages the spread of Mongol seed, about how every child born of a conquered woman extends the reach of the empire. Not legally, not formally, but symbolically. Every new life is another root in foreign soil, another name they can't pronounce tied forever to the banner of the horseman. It's not policy in the way that laws are written, but it's understood. Conquest doesn't end when the city burns. It continues in the womb. You do not know if you will bear children. You suspect you might. Your body has shifted in small ways. Your appetite flickers. Your stomach turns. You don't mark the days anymore, so you can't be sure. You try not to think about it, about what it would mean, about who it would belong to. You've seen other women with swollen bellies. Some are treated better, some worse. Some survive childbirth, some do not. One girl, too young, barely past 13, died in the night after labouring for 2 days. The child lived, she didn't. They buried her without ceremony, outside the camp. The baby was handed to another servant and raised without a mother. Just another body to feed, another victory no one would write down. If you carry a child, it will not be yours, it will be his, or theirs, or the empire's, a living banner planted in your flesh. You think about that sometimes at night, lying still beneath the wool, staring at the darkness. About the irony of your body, the one thing still truly yours, becoming the one thing they've decided to occupy long term. The city fell in a day, but you keep falling. You begin to understand why so many women in stories throw themselves into rivers, why cliffs are sometimes called holy, why poison is always tucked beneath the tongue in every old tale your grandmother used to whisper. She used to say those stories were warnings. You understand now that they were escape plans, but you don't jump, you don't run, you stay. Not because you're brave, not because you hope, because your legs still move, because your lungs still fill, because for now, you are still needed. And until you aren't, you will be used. That is your war, fought in silence, in shadow, in skin. No horses, no bloodshed, just a battle that never ends. You learn how to survive the way animals learn not to touch fire, by getting burned first. There are no lessons spoken aloud, no gentle correction. You figure it out one mistake at a time, and you're lucky if you only make each mistake once. A dropped bowl, a pause before answering, a glance held too long. None of these are crimes, but all of them carry consequences. You absorb them quietly, like bruises under clothing. Present, unspoken, remembered. The first rule is speed. Move fast enough to show effort, but not so fast that you look frantic. Efficiency is respected. Panic is punished. You are expected to anticipate needs without assuming anything. Refill water bowls before they're empty. Stoke fires before they flicker. Fold linens with the corners sharp and even. If you finish your tasks early, don't ask for more. Just find something else to clean. Something else to prepare, something else to fix that doesn't need fixing. The second rule is silence. Not just your voice, but your footsteps, your breath, your expression. You learn to step lightly on hard ground, to cough behind a sleeve, to cry if it happens at all. With your mouth closed and your back turned, laughter is not welcome. Conversation is not encouraged. You're not here to be human. You're here to function. Anything else is considered noise. You begin to track which behaviours trigger attention. Not kindness, not cruelty, just attention. That's what you avoid. If you're remembered, you risk being used. If you're forgotten, you might be left alone. So you become forgettable. You wear your borrowed clothes the same way every day. You keep your hair bound tight and simple. You never raise your voice. You never stand at the centre of a room. You become a shadow that serves. You learn by watching what happens to those who don't adapt. One morning, a woman beside you is ordered to sweep the path leading to the commander's yurt. She's tired, or slow, or maybe distracted. No one knows why exactly, but her work is uneven. She leaves too much dust near the entrance. A soldier notices. He doesn't shout. He just walks up behind her and strikes her once hard, across the neck with a length of wood. She drops instantly. No one helps her up. No one reacts. By evening, she's gone. Another woman, older, quieter, speaks out when she sees a younger girl being handled too roughly. One sentence, one moment of courage, she's dragged away by two men and doesn't return for 3 days. When she does, she doesn't speak again. Her face is swollen, her mouth torn. She walks with a limp she didn't have before. No one asks what happened. Everyone already knows. You begin to map the hierarchy by tone and gesture. Mongol discipline is layered. Officers over soldiers, older wives over younger ones, guards over everyone. But the rules change depending on the camp, the commander, the mood of the day. Some demand bowed heads, others prefer eye contact, some want you to speak, others will strike you for it. The only constant is that you're always wrong. You just learn how to be less wrong, less often. You're not part of the household, no matter how close your duties bring you. You're not a servant in the sense that stories use the word. Trusted, familiar, occasionally pitied. You are tolerated property, allowed to exist because you provide value. Cared for only to the extent that it protects the investment. You are closer to the livestock than to the women of the household. You know this because they don't look at you when they speak. They speak around you. You see the inside of the yurt but never its heart. You carry food to the table but never sit at it. You arrange garments, mend torn seams, clean boots caked with mud you'll never be allowed to step in. You sleep near the fire only when ordered. You eat the leftovers no one else wants. You learn to be grateful for mouldless bread and water that doesn't taste like iron. Gratitude here is just another form of survival. There is no praise, no reward for obedience, just fewer punishments. If no one hits you today, that is your victory. If no one calls your name, that is your blessing. You measure your life by the absence of pain, by the days you're left alone long enough to hear your own breath in the dark. Sometimes you try to remember who you were before, what you looked like, how your voice used to sound. The memories feel distant, half invented, like someone else's dream. You stopped saying your real name weeks ago. The one they gave you is easier now, shorter, harder. It fits in the mouth of men who don't care who you are. You survive, not with strength, not with hope, but with caution. You move like a shadow across the empire's edge, useful only so long as you're quiet, quick, and forgettable. You become exactly what they need, and nothing else. It happens slowly, so slowly you almost don't notice at first. A word slips from your tongue, and you can't find it again. Not an important word, not something sacred or meaningful, just a small one. Something you used to use every day. The kind of word you'd say without thinking. Maybe it meant pot or door or later. Now it just floats out of reach, and when you try to replace it, the only word that comes to mind is in their language. A harsh, clipped sound, with none of the warmth your own words used to carry. You tell yourself it's just fatigue, that your brain is conserving energy, that you're still yourself, but then more words vanish, first from your mouth, then from your memory. You stop trying to speak your language at all. No one around you understands it anyway. The other women have given up too. When you do speak, it's in the short, barked phrases you've been taught. Enough to follow orders, enough to ask for water, enough to apologise even when you don't know what you did wrong. Your name fades next, not the new one, the one they assigned you, the one they call when they want something scrubbed or someone punished, but the real one, the one you were born with, the one whispered by your mother when you were sick, the one braided into songs your grandmother used to hum. You try to say it one night, just to hear it out loud again. You mouth the syllables into the dark, but it doesn't sound right. It feels clumsy in your throat, like it belongs to someone else now. You forget how old you are, not in the abstract way that suffering makes time blur, but in the literal way. You can't do the math anymore. The calendar you used to live by, with its harvests and holidays and sacred days, no longer exists here. No one tracks your seasons. Your body continues on without permission, bones aching, hair thinning, joints swelling with work. You don't know if you're 20 or 30. You only know you're not the girl who left the village. She burned in the first fire. Sometimes you dream in their language. Not full dreams, more like fragments, conversations, commands. You hear someone calling your assigned name, and you respond without thinking. You say words you don't remember learning. In the dream, they feel natural. You wake up gasping, unsure whether you're still asleep. The taste of it lingers on your tongue like smoke. You don't know what's worse, that your dreams no longer belong to you, or that your mind is making room for their voices in the only place you thought you were still safe. They don't call you by your name anymore, even the new one. They call you by function. Girl, you, water, hands. You are a series of tasks, not a person. You are what you do. If you cook, you're cook. If you clean, you're broom. If you serve tea, you're pour. One man calls you quiet. He says it with a smirk, like it's a compliment. You pretend not to hear it. But the name sticks. Even the other women begin to use it. There's a mirror shard in the back of the tent, dull and warped. You catch your reflection in it once while refilling a basin. The face staring back is yours, but only technically. The cheeks are hollow. The eyes look older than you thought. There's a scar along your jaw you don't remember getting. You stare at her for a long time, trying to see yourself in her face, trying to find anything familiar. But the more you look, the more it feels like you're staring at a stranger. Someone who used to be you, or someone you've become. You're not sure which. The others change too. You see it in the way they walk, hunched from habit, in the way they speak only when necessary. You rarely use names between yourselves. You point, you nod. You learn to communicate without language, without identity. A glance can mean, I understand. A shrug can mean, we're still alive. You're a flock without voices, moving where you're directed, scattering when kicked. There are moments, brief, flickering, where something almost returns. A smell like bread baking, a laugh that sounds like your cousin's, a melody hummed under someone's breath that almost matches a festival song you used to dance to. For half a second, you feel something like recognition, and then it fades, like smoke, like a dream you forgot the second you woke up. You begin to wonder what will be left when the last of your memories fade. If your name is gone, and your language is gone, and your reflection no longer recognizes you, are you still yourself? Or just a shell wearing the memory of someone who mattered once? No one answers, no one asks. You rise when called, you sleep when allowed, you eat when given permission. You respond to whatever word they decide means you today. And somewhere, deep beneath all of that, something watches, something remembers. But even that is getting quieter. You know before anyone tells you, your body changes in quiet ways, the ache behind your ribs, the weight in your lower spine, the strange twisting of hunger and nausea that doesn't follow the rhythm of spoiled food or fatigue. You don't say anything, not out of shame, but because there's nothing to say. You know how this story ends. It's the middle you're not prepared for. No one congratulates you. There is no blessing, no ritual, no soft-voiced gathering around your belly. When the women in the camp notice, they do not touch you. One of them, older, sharp-eyed, simply glances at your stomach, then at your face, and nods once as if to say, "So, it's your turn." That's what it is now. A turn. A cycle. Another harvest in a field you never meant to plant. The man who used you doesn't acknowledge it. Whether he knows or not, you can't say. If he does, it changes nothing. He still calls you for work, still expects water poured, rugs swept, garments cleaned. You're expected to bend and kneel and carry. The child growing inside you isn't seen as a complication. It's just part of your utility now. Another function of your body, another service you provide. You don't feel joy. Not at first, maybe not ever. What you feel is fear, low and steady, humming beneath your ribs like an infection. You know too much now. You've seen what happens to the ones who bleed too long, to the ones who can't deliver, to the ones whose children don't cry. You've seen the small graves outside camp, barely marked, already sinking into the ground. There's no midwife here, no herbs, Just time and pain and whatever your body can endure. When the day comes, it comes hard. You labour in a tent with one other woman nearby, someone who's done this before. She doesn't speak much, just hands you cloth and water, presses her weight into your spine. When the pain nearly splits you, the others stay outside. No one offers help unless ordered. The world doesn't pause to make room for your suffering. The empire does not lower its voice for the sake of one woman in childbirth. The pain is slow and constant, like your body is being carved open with a dull knife. You scream once but catch yourself. The sound feels dangerous, exposing. So you press your teeth into your wrist until you taste blood, and you ride the waves in silence after that. When it's over, when the final tearing push wrings the last of your strength from you, there is a moment of unbearable quiet. Then a cry. The woman holds up the child, your child, slick and writhing, mouth wide with new furious breath. It's a boy. You can see that much. His skin is pale and wrinkled, his eyes squinted shut. He looks like nothing you recognise, and yet so terribly, painfully familiar. You expect to feel relief or rage. Instead, you feel nothing at all. He is placed in your arms after a while. You hold him awkwardly, like you've forgotten how. He is warm and alive and impossibly small. His head fits in the palm of your hand. You watch him move his fingers, slow and clumsy. You listen to him breathe. Something in you starts to ache in a new place. Not like labour, not like hunger. Something stranger, something quieter. You do not love him, not yet, maybe not ever, but you do not wish him gone. That's where it begins. Some in the camp refer to him with a kind of detached amusement. The little one, the half-step, her shadow. You're told to care for him, but are given no help in doing so. You feed him, clean him, rock him when he cries. Sometimes he cries for hours. Sometimes he doesn't cry at all. He does not resemble you. He carries the shape of someone else's mouth, someone else's eyes. But when he sleeps, he curls towards you, like he's always known where you are. The other women avoid you now, not cruelly, just cautiously, as if the child has made you something else, less pitiable, more fragile. You are no longer just a servant. You are a vessel, a carrier, a living reminder of what this place can take and what it sometimes leaves behind. You're not told directly, but you know. When the child is weaned, you will likely be moved. Your usefulness here is temporary. You've served your purpose, born a child, fulfilled your role, completed your function. Whether they send you to another post or gift you to another man, the path ahead is already shifting beneath your feet. You think about running. Not because you believe you'll succeed, well, you won't, but because part of you wants to feel something other than this slow erosion. But then the boy stirs in his sleep, and you don't move. You hold him closer, not out of joy, not even out of instinct, just out of habit. If he lives, he will grow up a Mongol. He will never know your language, your songs, your mother's name. He will never understand what you were before you became his. If he dies, and many do, they will bury him without words. And you will keep going, because that is what you do now. The man who used to own you dies, you aren't told how. Sickness, maybe, or the wrong insult to the wrong person at the wrong time. Mongol politics tend to be swift and terminal. All you know is that one day you were drawing water for his household, and the next, the yurt was quiet, the fire out, and someone else was tying up your wrists. You don't resist, you don't ask. You've learned better. They load you onto a cart this time, not out of kindness, but convenience. The caravan is heading west, and so are you. No one says where. No one says why. You are part of the supplies now, somewhere between sacks of millet and rolls of silk. You were a person. Now you're just weight. No one asked if you had a child. No one cared. If the child lived, he stayed behind with the camp, or with someone else, or not at all. You were never told. you were never meant to ask. The journey is long, days blur into each other. You pass through low river valleys that steam under the morning sun, then up through dry mountain paths where the wind howls like something lost. Sometimes you stop in walled towns, where the people speak a dialect you can almost understand. Other times, it's wide open plains, dotted with riders who shout greetings in languages you don't know. The land changes colour around you. Forests give way to dust, rivers to steppe, familiar to strange. By now you speak 3 tongues, not well, not gracefully, but enough. You know the clipped commands of your first captors, the smoother cadence of the merchant clans, and the local speech of wherever you are now. None of them are yours. You no longer remember the word for certain things in your own language, not because you never knew, but because no one around you has used those words in years. It's as if your mother tongue has dried up and blown away behind you, scattered like straw across the empire's breath. The place they leave you isn't grand, it isn't even fixed. Just another encampment along a trade artery that pulses goods east to west, soldier to prince, from the Black Sea to the Yellow River. The man who takes you isn't cruel, but he isn't kind either. You are handed off with the same attention, given to a clay pot or an extra horse. You sleep beside pack animals now, under stitched felt and foreign stars. You cook for men whose names you can't pronounce. You clean for women who look at you with flat, unreadable eyes. Some are slaves, some are wives, some are both. You do what they do, how they do it, and no one asks where you came from. They assume you've always been part of the machine. In a way, you have. One day, you're ordered to serve a group of visiting soldiers from the northern routes, men with pale eyes and sharper accents, draped in unfamiliar pelts. They speak a different Mongol, one learned farther out on the empire's edge, in places your maps never named. One of them stares at you for a long time before laughing and saying something you don't catch. The others chuckle. You don't ask, you just refill their bowls. Later, when they leave, the woman who supervises the camp tells you what he said. He thought you were from his village, she says. Said you looked like a girl who vanished years ago when the city fell, she shrugs. Maybe it was you. You don't answer. Maybe it was, or maybe the resemblance was nothing. But something inside you tightens anyway, not with memory, but with distance. That a man from a place you've never been could look at you and almost recognize his past tells you everything about your future. You are no longer a person. You are a reflection, a reused shape, a face repurposed to fit whatever need the next outpost has. You used to wonder where the empire ended. You don't anymore. It doesn't. It changes form, but it never stops. It folds you in, assigns you new words, new tasks, new dust to sleep in. Every new assignment is a new conquest, not on maps, but in bodies, in tongues, in the quiet routines that eat away at who you used to be. You perform now, efficiently, without hesitation. The girl who once sobbed behind a broken wall is gone. The woman who replaced her doesn't dream, doesn't flinch, doesn't speak unless spoken to. You know what's expected. You give it. You're not thanked. History still moves. Armies still pass. Roads are still paved with the bones of those who walked before. You watch it all, unseen, absorbing new customs, wearing new colours, learning new names that don't belong to you. You stay useful. You stay silent. You stay. This is not survival. This is absorption. This is how conquest sustains itself, not just by killing what stands in its way, but by swallowing what kneels before it. Time passes, not quickly and not kindly. It moves the way erosion does, quietly, constantly, removing small pieces of you until there's almost nothing left. You wake, you work, you sleep. The seasons change, the roads shift. The faces around you blur into one long shapeless crowd. You stop counting years. You don't mark anniversaries. There are no holidays in your life anymore, only intervals between labour. You don't know exactly when your back began to stoop, only that it did. You don't know when your hair started to thin or when your knees stopped bending fully. It all just happens. Your reflection, on the rare occasions you catch it in water or polished metal, startles you. The woman looking back is no longer young. Her skin is weathered, her hands are calloused, her eyes are dim. She looks like someone who has always been tired. You're not in any scrolls. There is no record of what you endured. No chronicler paused long enough to jot your name beside the names of kings and generals. No court poet composed a verse in your honour. You were never a symbol. You were never significant. You passed through this world like smoke through reeds, visible for a moment, then gone without a trace. If you die young, it is likely from illness or injury, a fever, a birth that goes wrong, a wound that festers. No one lights a candle, no one says a prayer. Your body is taken somewhere just beyond the edge of the road, where the grass is patchy and the soil is easy to dig. They don't bury you deep. They don't mark the spot. There are too many dead to remember, and you are only one more. The grave is shallow. The earth settles unevenly. Within a few weeks, no one could find you again, even if they tried. If you live longer, it isn't better. You aren't revered for your endurance. There is no wisdom in your suffering. You become background. Another pair of hands, another silent presence near the hearth. You don't speak unless spoken to, and even then your voice is softer than it used to be, roughened by time and disuse. The younger women might look at you with vague pity, but they don't ask about your past. If you told them, they wouldn't believe it. Or worse, they would. Sometimes you're handed a child, not your own, someone else's, and told to watch them while the others work. You hold the infant gently, automatically, and try not to think about your own. You're not even sure if he lived. You think he did. You remember a boy with your eyes and someone else's mouth, clinging to your sleeve. But it's hard to be certain now. The memories blur with the others, with the dreams, with the stories you stopped telling yourself long ago. Your name is gone. The one they gave you may still be used, passed down like a tool, but the name you were born with, the one your mother whispered, the one you once thought no one could take, has vanished. It exists nowhere, not even in your own mouth. You tried saying it once, years ago, but it felt strange, wrong, like trying to wear a dress that no longer fits, that never belonged to you in the first place. You don't die in battle, you don't die loved, you don't die remembered, you die quietly, the way most people do, alone, regardless of who's nearby. Whether you go in sleep, or from hunger, or from some infection that never had a name, it makes no difference. The empire does not pause, the road keeps moving. The cart wheels roll over the same dirt that eventually covers your bones. Maybe you have descendants, maybe not. If you do, they may not know your story. They may not want to. Shame has a way of skipping generations and then reappearing in whispers. You become a vague mention, an unnamed ancestor, a servant once passed through the family line. Your children, if they survive, will speak the language of your captors. Their gods will not be yours. Their food will taste unfamiliar. They will grow up under banners you never chose, in places you never meant to be. And if by some accident of curiosity, someone many years from now wonders where their family came from, they won't find you. They'll find records of merchants, of soldiers, of lords and generals. They'll trace lineage through fathers, never mothers, through names written in ink, not those erased by dust. You are not unique. That's the first truth that needs to be said. Even now, even at the end, you weren't chosen because of who you were. You weren't spared because of your strength or beauty or will. You were simply there, living in the path of an empire that consumed everything it touched. You were a body in a village that didn't fall fast enough. That's all it took. There were tens of thousands like you, some younger, some older, some married, some not. Some taken in their sleep, others dragged screaming from the flames. Different faces, different names, different languages, but the same outcome. You weren't captured because you were special. You were captured because they could. You weren't seen as a woman, not in the way stories mean it. You were seen as spoils, like gold, like horses, like salt. You were something to be passed along, exchanged, consumed, a body to carry burdens, to bear children, to kneel and serve, and be silent while others made decisions. Your worth was measured in labour and obedience, in how well you could disappear when told to. The Empire needed women like you. It needed them to cook its food, to clean its weapons, to give birth to its sons. It needed them to stitch together the quiet spaces between battles, to keep the camps running, the soldiers fed, the children alive. You were the bloodline extended across new territory, a womb planted in foreign soil, not with honour, not with gratitude, but with expectation. You did not escape, not because you failed, but because escape was never the point. The system was not built to be outrun. You weren't meant to be saved. You were meant to serve until your usefulness ran out. The fact that you lived as long as you did isn't triumph, it's logistics. You were more valuable alive than dead, until you weren't. And even then, no one marked the transition. Some of the women who shared your fate learned to speak the language better than you. Some bore children who went on to fight for the very army that destroyed their bloodlines. Some disappeared into households so completely that even their descendants forgot they were ever taken. Some became favoured, some were broken early, all were absorbed. You never had a choice, not a real one. Every decision you made was within the framework of someone else's command. Serve or starve, obey or suffer, perform or disappear. You chose what you could, where you could, and then the rest was done to you. Your survival was not freedom, it was endurance. History doesn't tell your story. It tells his, it tells theirs. It records victories and treaties, battles and banners. It names cities taken and rebuilt, generals promoted, children of war raised to greatness. When it speaks of women, it's the queens, the wives, the symbols. Not the carriers, not the cooks, not the broken ones who never stopped working. They will call it glory. They will say the empire changed the world, that it built roads and expanded trade and spread culture across continents. They'll write about the genius of its leaders, the discipline of its soldiers, the reach of its vision. And they will not mention you, because you were not the story. You were the cost, but you were there, every meal served, every child born, every fire tended, every stitch sewn into tents that sheltered armies, into garments worn by kings. You were the breath in the machine, the silence between footfalls, the hand that cleaned the blood before the next celebration. And there were thousands like you, quiet, unwritten, bent under the weight of an empire that saw you not as human, but as infrastructure. You were the road beneath the boots, the tool in the tent, the flesh repurposed for legacy. You were not forgotten because someone tried to forget you. You were forgotten because you were never considered important enough to remember in the first place. And that, more than anything, is the truth of conquest. You were not spared, you were used. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Not with redemption, not with recognition, but with the quiet disappearance that so many lived and no one recorded. If you're still awake, thank you for carrying this life with you, even briefly. Some histories were never meant to be comforting. Some are meant to remind us what gets buried between battles and banners. If you'd like early access to more of these slow, uncelebrated stories, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find a link to the Patreon in the description. You can also subscribe, leave a comment, or share what other forgotten corners of history you'd like to see covered. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find these stories. Sleep well.